Okay, guys, I'm just 3 reviews away from the finale, the season finale, that is, a flashback review. So let's get started with 2 movies that is actually relatable. These are 2 films that I find both very good, and yet are connected not in terms of the way they told their story, but more into what they was trying to, what message they was trying to put out there. And then I will finish it off with the movie that I simply cannot stand. I hate that movie with a passion. But that's the last movie I'm going to be talking about during the season. So I might as well talk about these 2 films to at least give me some sense of happiness before really getting into this movie. And believe when I say I'm going to get into this movie, I really am getting into this movie. But first, let's talk about a film that I consider that is Jim Carrey's best film. I really, really love this film. Um, tr- uh, I believe that Jim Carrey had really played his trump card. And it showed me with the right film he can be a serious actor. And I think a lot of people don't give him credit for taking on these kind of roles that many people deem to be not Jim Carrey like. But to me, I always glad when he does take risks like this. Granted, they don't always turn out great. There are some films that are disastrous. Number 23, anyone. But this one, in my opinion, really showed what he can do if given the right role with the right cast, and that is The Truman Show. I love this movie. I've seen this countless times, and every time it seems to get better and better. Giving you a brief description because I don't want to go too much into this. You had a guy, Truman Verbanks, who lives in this make-believe town that he, to his eyes, that is real. The people are real, the environment are real. But then strange things started happening, and he started to capture what's been going on, and he starts to question his surroundings more so than when he was trying to leave. You can tell that he wants to move away, become his own man, and he always finds these strange obstacles always getting in his way. One of the major things is that every time he wants to take a bus ride to somewhere, to Chicago or the whatever island he wants to go to, the Fiji Islands, he finds himself never going. It's always been this discouragement of him going. It started out when he was a child, especially when he said he wanted to be an explorer. He just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby, there's nothing left to explore." And that's right there. You can tell that he's pretty much a prisoner in his own world. In fact, there's a reason why he's a prisoner in his own world. His world is a TV show. He's the main star, so they can't have the main star just leave. And they made every effort to make sure he doesn't leave. You get to see a lot of that stuff going on, especially when he wants to take a ferry ride and he can't do it because what has happened in his childhood that makes him afraid of water. So a lot of stuff is being put into play. Truman, however, is getting a little worried that something's not up, especially with his wife, especially with his friends, and he does start to come unglued, especially when he discovered that his radio was following his every move, and that's when he starts to question things. That's when he starts to question things. He starts to get out, start doing a walk around, start noticing that things is a little off. He went to a business store and he realized that the elevator was not there, and he ended up getting thrown out. The one thing that really triggered it is that the fact is he bumped into someone he thought was his dead father, and he got pushed right into the bus. They carted him away, and people didn't even flinch. They didn't even look at it. He just kept on his business, and that's when he realized, dude, something's not right. I know that something's not right. I gotta leave. And again, these are pretty much temptations. He has a reason for leaving because there's actually someone on the outside from his world that he's actually looking for. There's a girl who is actually watching television with him, actually, and watching him go through his stuff. And you can tell that he's emotional attachment to this girl, even though he didn't really make a major date or anything. but there's an emotional attachment. He wants to see this girl again, and he's doing everything he can to get out of this environment. He knows it's not something's not real. He started pointing out consistencies that made him realize something's not wrong. Especially when they go into a loop, he can actually pinpoint where these people are going to, what's happening, and it really went to full circle when he took his wife and started riding around. He said he wanted to go, drive somewhere, and there was traffic. He had to go back to his house, but he faked it and he went right back into right back in the road. And he said, "Look, same road, no cars. It's magic." So he knows that situation. He jumped the bridge. He knew that was fake. Next thing you know, he ran into a bunch of guys who claimed there was a nuclear power plant explosion, and then they knew his name, and that happened. So there is these elements that's stopping him, and really things that started to hit the fan when he noticed that his wife was talking about something that has nothing to do with the conversation. He was saying, "What the hell are you talking about? Why are you talking about this?" I think it was cocoa product, or it was like a milk drink. He was like, "What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?" And then when he grabbed hold of her, she pretty much yelled, "Do something." That's when he realized he's being watched. They tried to attempt to remove that when they actually brought back his father into the mix, but that didn't help matters because we had the ending, which I actually thought was a good ending, a very mental ending. That pretty much, I liked the way it ended. It ended just suddenly, but it ended just the way I expected to end, and it was still very, very powerful. There is hardly anything bad about this film. I know people say I should nitpick this film to death because there was a lot of inconsistencies, but I think alone with the movie, if you see the movie yourself, you pretty much see that they pretty much covered that right there. They've shown you the inconsistencies within the movie, and they do a very good job of it. Again, this film was labeled as a drama/comedy, and I think they got it right. It is more drama than it is comedy. There are some stuff that Jim Carrey does. When he needs to be funny, he is funny in this movie. But when it's dramatic, it's very, very dramatic. So the pacing absolutely helped in this movie. Pacing was very, very steady. It wasn't too slow, yet it wasn't too fast. It was just the right pacing where you can follow everything. Jim Carrey character, I cared a lot in this movie. There was a lot of reasons because I actually wanted to see him succeed. And even Mr. Harris himself, Ed Harris, was actually pretty good. He played the person in charge of the situation, and although he was saying, "Well, Truman can leave any time he wants," he didn't want him to leave every time he wanted, and he did everything to do to stop him. And even at the very end, when he was trying to coach him not to, make that decision that will ultimately end the Truman Show, you can tell that the whole show pretty much really depend on that. Basically, what has happened, and it was explained that a corporation adopted Truman when he was a child, when he was abandoned by his mother, and they made a TV show on the Truman Show and became an instant success. It was like a reality show without the stars knowing it was a reality show. And everybody was with them, everybody was supporting him, and everybody was, watching him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the upside is he was a phenomenon. The bad side is he was literally a prisoner in this show. He was literally, given a life sentence of being this character, and it really showed that that's not exactly a good thing. Who knows the psychological scars and the lawsuits that was going to be followed right after that. I always wondered if they would ever make a sequel, would he actually sue the company? I was always wondering about it because it did end it just like that. It just ended abruptly. But it does bring up the question of a lot of stuff and why reality shows... really, you can't really call them too much reality shows. Just for the record, this was not the first attempt at this type of a movie or TV show, because the Twilight Zone, one of the newer ones, I think when they rebooted it the first time in the late 80s, early 90s, actually had an episode like that, where people were actually watching this guy who didn't know it was a reality show. His wife knew, but he never let in on the gag, and that's when things started to really pick up. And when he realized that it was all coming to an end, and he got that check, he said, "Wait a minute, I still want to do this," and he actually continued attending. as if the show is continued to go on. This was the total opposite. He did not know what was going on. He was actually trying to leave, and there were elements that the show was doing to keep him there, including the scared of water, which we found out why he was afraid of water, and that actually played a very strong part in the end in such a way that it was dramatic. The score, which I think Peter Shore, the guy who did the Lord of the Ring, did the score for this, and I actually thought it was a perfect score for this movie. Mind you, it's not a memorable score. I don't consider it to be the best of his work. There was actually an edited version that was never even mentioned. I actually liked that version a lot. It was very short, but it actually very memorable, and I actually liked it. But the score itself, it worked for the scenery they was doing. Keep in mind, the score was supposed to be part of what the TV show was trying to do, and I think for that most part it actually worked. And I actually liked the way the actors played, because they actually had to play dual roles in this movie, which actually worked as well, because they was actually, when you see it, you really like, wait a minute, this, how are they doing this, how they portraying this, but again, a lot of stuff just worked. This film could have easily blow up, because the way the film was promoted, you'd be like, I'm not too sure about this one, but once you've seen it, once I've seen it, I'm like, wow, this is pretty damn good. For a Jim Carrey film, this is pretty awesome. I actually enjoyed it. I'm not taking anything away from his earlier work. I like The Mask, Ace Ventura, so much, Dumb and Dumber. But there is a certain style he did with this film that separated him from that. Because let's be honest, when we see a lot of the films here, there's a reason why, to this day, that if you're going to make a film featuring Jim Carrey, you got to make sure, if you're going to make a sequel, you make sure Jim Carrey reprises that role, because nobody else can play Jim Carrey's role but Jim Carrey. And I think it's been proven with the sequels they made of his more successful work. In fact, I go on to say, have Jim Carrey not played the role that he did, most of these films that came out would have failed. That's how strong of impact he had with some of these roles he has done, because his comedy fit that role. But unfortunately, he's also typecast as that. And even though Truman Show, it was heavily praised, and even he was nominated for a Golden Globe, he never really got the Oscar nomination, which is kind of sad, really, because a lot of people was mad that he didn't get it. But this was one of the films that I actually say that, yeah, this was his best performance. This was his performance that proved I can do serious work if you give me the right script to work with, and give me the script that will work with me. And Truman Show is pretty much his equilibrium. I think Man on the Moon is also good, but I also felt that Truman Show is just flat out better. To me, I gave this film 4 stars. I was very stunned and very surprised at how much I actually would love this film. I really did. Again, I have very little complaints. Again, like I said, the only small nitpick I can actually come up with, it doesn't have a memorable soundtrack. It really don't. But everything else in that film, I absolutely enjoyed. I really did. The performances from these veteran actors and actresses was top-notch in this movie, so there's no question about that. But I understand if you guys are not used to seeing Jim Carrey like this, or just didn't care for the movie. If you don't, that's fine. That's great. Just give me a reason why you don't like it. I'm not gonna disagree with it. That's your taste in movies. Or if you did like it, just tell me what it is about you like about it. And I will just include right there. So, what other film you guys are asking that is similar to this? Well, it's a film that came out, I believe, either a few months later or about a year later, and that is Ed TV. And I'll get to that one next time. But until then, it's J77 saying take care, be safe. I will talk to you soon.